Phases of the moon. What is the phase of the moon? The changing shape of the bright part of the moon that we see is called its phase.
Children, let's try to understand the different phases of the moon. First of all, let's try to understand what do we mean by the phase of the moon. The changing shape of the bright part of the moon that we see is called its phase. Now children, let's try to understand what causes part of the moon to be lit up. The moon is illuminated because it reflects the light from the sun. The part of the moon facing the sun is lit up, and the part facing away from the sun is in darkness. Children, let's try to understand what are the different phases of the moon. To begin with, first we have the new moon. Then we have the waxing crescent moon, the first quarter moon. Then we have the waxing gibbous moon, full moon. Then we have the waning gibbous moon, the third quarter moon, the waning crescent moon, and at the end we have the new moon. Remember children, when the bright part is getting bigger, the moon is waxing. When it is getting smaller, the moon is waning. When the moon is more than half lit, it is called a gibbous moon. When the moon is less than half lit, it is called a crescent moon. The time interval between one new moon and the next new moon, or in other words we can say the time interval between one full moon and the next full moon, is called a lunar month. It takes 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes and 3 seconds for the moon to complete one lunar month. During one lunar month, visible illuminated portion of the moon starts increasing from new moon to reach the full moon on the 15th day is called waxing period, or in other words we call it as Shukla Paksha. From full moon, the visible illuminated portion of the moon starts decreasing to reach the new moon on the 30th day, and it is called as waning period or Krishna Paksha. Remember children, the interval between the two successive phases is nearly 3.75 days. Now let's try to understand what do we mean by new moon. The lighted side of the moon faces away from the earth. This means that the sun, earth and moon are almost in a straight line with the moon in between the sun and the earth. The moon that we see looks very dark. What is first quarter moon? The right half of the moon appears lighted and the left side of the moon appears dark. During the time between the new moon and the first quarter moon, the part of the moon that appears lighted gets larger and larger every day and will continue to grow until the full moon. Sometimes the third quarter is also called as the last quarter. The left half of the moon appears lighted and the right side of the moon appears dark. During the time between the full moon and the last quarter moon, the part of the moon that appears lighted gets smaller and smaller every day. It will continue to shrink until the new moon, when the cycle starts all over again. Full moon. The lighted side of the moon faces the earth. This means that the earth, sun and moon are nearly in a straight line with the earth in the middle. The moon that we see is very bright from the sunlight reflecting off it. Waxing crescent moon. This moon can be seen after the new moon, but before the first quarter moon. The crescent will grow larger and larger every day until the moon looks like the first quarter moon. Remember, waxing means increasing or growing larger. Waxing gibbous moon. This moon can be seen after the first quarter moon, but before the full moon. The amount of the moon that we can see will grow larger and larger every day. Waxing, already we have studied, it means that it's increasing or growing larger in size. Waning gibbous moon. This moon can be seen after the full moon, but before the last quarter moon. The amount of the moon that we can see will grow smaller and smaller every day. Remember, waning means decreasing or growing smaller. Waning crescent moon. This moon can be seen after the last quarter moon and before the new moon. The crescent will grow smaller and smaller every day until the moon looks like the new moon. Remember, waning, what does it mean? It means decreasing or growing smaller.
What causes part of the moon to be lit up? The moon is illuminated because it reflects the light it receives from the sun. The part of the moon facing the sun is lit up. The part facing away from the sun is in darkness. What causes the different phases of the moon? Well, the phases of the moon depend on its position in relation to the sun and earth. As the moon makes its way round the earth, we see the bright parts of the moon's surface at different angles. These are called phases of the moon. Now on the right hand side, you can see the visibility of the moon in different shapes. So these are also called the phases of the moon.